on the stream here.
We're sound checking.
We are streaming. And right now, while I'm thinking about it, I'm going to contact my buddy, the special effects guy, and start the process of getting him on the show, because I expect that to take months.
That'd be cool.
I just logged into Facebook, and here's something that I wrote in 2012. How to cook anything perfectly. Step 1, take food you like. Step 2, add flavors you like. Step 3, apply heat until done. Avoid excess on all counts. There you go. That's the perfect ingredient for all things cooking. Let's see, why am I not hearing myself? Did I not hit play? That's why. I didn't hit play.
Yeah, just add Uber Eats.
Yeah. You know, it's people just make cooking out to be so much more than it has to be. It's just it's just not that big a deal.
Jinder's here.
Howdy.
He knows that if we say we start at 7:30, we'll actually start at 7:45. He's so good like that. All right. Well, when the squirrel stops running in its cage, it's just not that big a deal.
Jinder's here.
You keep saying that.
He knows that if we say we start at 7:30, we'll actually start at 7:45. He's so good like that. All right. I heard everybody. So good. So close that cycle sucking tab. Close that cycle sucking tab. Ugh, never mind. I'll do it later.
Pop-up ads on a Mac. I just got an ad from Avast Security telling me to update to the latest new version.
So I bought a new laptop a couple of months ago just because it was time, right? And it's a middle-of-the-road laptop, nothing special. But it came with Norton installed on it. And
I'm sorry.
I can't make it go away. I mean, every time I think I've uninstalled it, it comes back and says, hey, your free trial is about to... I want it to go away. Make it go away. I don't want the free trial. And I really think that there's some other... I don't know if it came from Windows or from HP or whatever, that or Asus, I think, is who made that one. I think they've got some stub that keeps reinstalling it because I make it go away and then it comes back.
Yeah, it makes you really want to trust them, doesn't it?
Really? Yeah. I mean, I never would have wanted it in the first place, but now it's like, hey, don't go away. Your trial is about to expire. Well, it's been about to expire for about 4 months now. I want it to expire. Please, expire. Back in the day, man, Norton was the shiznit. I mean, it was it. And now, how the mighty have fallen.
Do you remember when Norton used to make, like, disc repair?
Yeah.
They used to be really good. It used to get me out of trouble all the time.
Norton Utilities was essential. Everybody had to have it.
Yeah, yeah.
McAfee too, right? McAfee was the antivirus software, and it was the best, hands down. Nobody ever argued that it was the best. And now they're both just crapware.
Yeah.
No wonder they are.
They want you to continuously upgrade their crapware.
Yeah. That's why, you know, brand loyalty just can't be a thing anymore because brands don't mean anything anymore.
Oh, you're loyal to the brand, but the brand's not loyal to you.
This should be a show topic.
McAfee their retail product went downhill faster than their enterprise product. And like I would walk around like a Micro Center of Fries with my McAfee shirt on while I was, got off work. And I would show them my McAfee logo and I would point to the McAfee corporate. And I said, that's the worst piece of garbage I've ever seen. Whatever you do, don't buy that.
Have you seen those stupid John McAfee videos he put on YouTube or whatever, where he's like cocained up to the hilt with all these women around him, and all he's there is complaining that stop asking me to get it to uninstall McAfee. I don't run the company anymore.
Yeah. Actually, Jinda, it was PK Zip was the first zipper. I forget who the PK was, but it wasn't
PK
Norton.
Ware.
It wasn't Norton.
No, PK Ware was the company behind that.
Yeah, and I'm sure you could Google who that Peter something Pete K, I think it was. And open sourced his algorithm, not the actual software. So he made money off the software, and then other people copied the algorithm so that nobody had to use his software anymore. Which I think is fine. I think that's sort of the right way to do it. You get your money while you can, because you're the first, and then when other people copy you, that's fine too. Okay. Let's see. Please begin your local recording devices at this time.
Okay.
Initiating hard drive degradation.
Wow. So I opened just a blank Firefox tab. At the bottom of it, there's a banner that says, examine the gender gap in tech and what it means for you with Mozilla's latest IRL podcast episode. Listen now.
Oh. And that's when all the sighing began.
Mozilla.
Lost the plot.
Oh. Why? Why would you do this to me?
Because you're not hashtag woke yet. You might be woke, but you're not hashtag woke.
You know what made it weird for me is that if you're ever in San Francisco, you go down to Fisherman's Wharf by the bay there, and it's just tourist trap. I mean, everywhere you go, everyone's got their money out. They're, buskers trying to get money from you and mimes, and it's a very Californian thing, and it's annoying as heck. And you look across the other side of the I don't know what the Embarcadero or the road there, the Esplanade. And on the other side of the Esplanade, opposite Fisherman's Wharf, is the Mozilla offices. And I look at that, and I look at this horrible tourist trap, pretend nothing that they're trying to extract money from people. And somehow I connected the dots, and I've never gone to Mozilla ever since.
Mm.
And it's nothing to do with them, right? They haven't done anything wrong.
Right.
It's just, by association, I just don't. Just has a bad taste.
All right, we should save this for a show topic. Something like the Silicon Valleyification of companies.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and begin now. I'm gonna start the timer and say, hello everyone and welcome to the GeekRant, episode 352. Recorded March 10th, 2019 and brought to you by Element OP Productions. ElementOP.com. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Drive Time Radio for Geeks. I am your host, Mark. Occasionally, on very rare moments, known as the Sultan of the Soapbox Cockerel. And joining me this week, as always, are your two stalwart co-hosts, Seth, the Gooey Kid Anderson, and Miles, the Oxygeneer Wakeham. Hello, gentlemen.
Hey, Mark, and welcome back to the faithful Opiites. Yay, team.
Yeah, time zones. I hate them.
So, yeah, the rest of the world, the rest of the country, moved our clocks forward an hour. Miles just has to do everything an hour earlier than he used to.
Yeah, so. No one gave me any notice.
Other than, like Ben Franklin,
Yeah, well,
I saw a funny flow chart. It was different items and how to change the time. It was like phones, don't worry about it. They update by magic. Ovens, you need a mechanical engineering degree or a hammer. Car stereos, don't worry about it. Not worth the effort. Wait 6 months. Do we all, in this modern world, how many of us still do the dance of walking around changing things in that? I changed probably 7 things, oven, microwave, wall clocks last night. And in spite the fact that we live in this so-called connected world.
I changed one so my dad can see it, but other than that, I don't really care. So
I haven't changed.
I didn't change a thing.
Of course not. You were just late for the podcast. That's all.
Yeah, really.
Funny. So I just wanted to start off. You know, I knew when we did the show last week about our favorite movies, I knew we were going to get some negative feedback, no matter what you do. A thing that you say is bad, somebody's going to like it. A thing that you say is good, somebody's going to not like it. There's just no way to make everybody happy about this. But I got called on the carpet by a fellow podcaster, the Door-to-Door Geek, Steve McLaughlin, and I got to say he was right. And I'm just going to say it right here. It is unconscionable that we did a show about best movies and Fifth Element wasn't on the list. We failed you, Door, and I apologize. You're absolutely right. That was wrong of us.
Yeah, I don't know that I've seen it in the last 12 months, though. So,
yeah, I have. It's one I watch regularly. It's one of my favorites. I think it is one of the stellar examples of the non-traditional sci-fi film. There's nothing about it I don't like, and yet it didn't show up on the list. So, there you go.
Yeah, it was at least better than Jupiter Ascending for original sci-fi.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, what isn't better than Jupiter Ascending?
I watched honest trailers for Jupiter Ascending last night. Oh my gosh, it's one of those that kind of redeems the movie. Yeah. So
if they did Cinema Sins for Jupiter Ascending, it would be as long as the movie. It would be 2 hours of Cinema Sins.
And like a friend of mine wrote a review for Superman Returns that really, after having read his review, I was glad I saw the movie. But up until that point, it was one of the single worst movie experiences of my life because, they took this awesome icon and they basically remade the movie frame for frame except made it worse. And it was just a bad movie all the way around. Everybody agrees that. But he wrote a review, and his review was so awesome that it went back in time, and it made me watching the movie. It made that experience great because I laughed for like 30 minutes reading his review. So, so it was like same way the honest trailers kind of did that for Jupiter Ascending. Not quite to the same degree, but it was pretty good.
Yeah, as I'm watching Jupiter Ascending, the only positive I can come up with is they sure are pretty people. That's it. That's all I got.
Right.
So I saw a preview. I generally stay away from previews because the only thing they can do is ruin a movie. They can't make the experience better. That's been my experience for movie previews. If I want to see a movie, I'm going to see it. I'm going to be interested in the concept or the actor or the director or whatever. Previews just generally don't impress me at all. But I saw a preview this week, and the reason I watched it because I just thought the concept was interesting. It's an upcoming film coming in, I believe, May, by James Gunn, the guy who wrote the Guardians of the Galaxy, and it's called Brightburn, and it's the Superman origin story. But what if Superman was evil? So it's the exact same thing. So this kid comes down, crash lands, adopted by a Midwestern family, but then he terrorizes that family. And he's picked on as a kid, and he internalizes that and decides he's going to get even with the world. So basically, it's the Batman scenario. The reason Batman fears Superman could actually happen. So he's turned it into a jump scare movie. It's a horror movie. It's like superhero horror. I think it may be a new genre, and I generally don't like horror. It's just not my thing. But when the jump scare is a kid moving faster than the speed of light, that adds a whole new element to it. So Brightburn, check it out. Check out the previews. It may be the first horror movie that I've watched in 20 years because I'm interested in the concept.
I think it could be good. One thing I don't like how let's deconstruct all the heroes of the past and just, because we can't have good guys. All the good guys have to be bad and the bad guys have to be good. And, let's call that, avant-garde or, extra crap if you want the French translation. Sometimes the good guys are supposed to be good and the bad guys are supposed to be bad. And then you want to see what that looks like on screen. So,
Yeah,
That makes some of the best screenplay stuff is when you the audience have to make the decision whether this guy's good or bad because they have both mannerisms.
Right. Yeah, the sort of it's not white hat, not black hat, the gray hats, the anti-heroes.
Yeah, it's like Breaking Bad, right? I mean, it was Walter White good, or was he bad, or was he a bad good guy? I mean, I don't know.
If you are watching the stream, I have to apologize because Google just logged me out of everything.
Because it had been a week since you entered your password.
I don't know.
Google.
Everything went out all at once. So I have no show notes. I'm still streaming, but there's no Hangout to stream. So give me just a minute to get that back. and we'll get the stream back.
Oh man.
I don't know.
So did you get any feedback on any of the other movies?
No, that was it. That's all I've heard. And I expect to hear more as time goes on. But it just made me laugh. Of course, I'm teasing, but Dor was like spitting mad that we didn't include his favorite movie, and I gotta say I agree. It's an excellent movie. So anyway, on a different subject of movies, let's talk about movies. I took the kids to see How to Train Your Dragon. The third installment of that movie. Now, I have to preface this by saying I have really enjoyed. And then we lost Seth. Wow. I have really enjoyed both of the previous movies. I thought the first one was really good. I think the second one was maybe not as good a movie, but certainly a moving experience, that sort of thing. But anyway, the third one is outstanding. Just absolutely outstanding. It's it wraps up the story very nicely. It is in no doubt the last of the series, and I really enjoyed it. Great animation. I felt a little disappointed in the action sequences, which is kind of weird to say, but one of the things that I liked about DreamWorks overall is generally their action sequences tend to be very clear. You can always tell who's doing what. And it's in the animation world, digital. Of course, all action sequences today are animated. Regardless of the movie, if it's in an action sequence, it's animated and it's on a computer. And one of the, I don't know if it's money saving. I suspect that's what it is. But you have the blurred shots and the fast action shots, and you make it so that you don't actually have to see things. And so action sequences get really confusing. They're fast moving. Picture any Michael Bay movie ever, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. And this one fell victim to that. So there were some really fast-paced action scenes where, and maybe it's just because I'm getting older, but I'm watching and thinking, I'm not really sure who just did what. And that just wasn't the case in the previous ones. So anyway, How to Train Your Dragon. If you're into that sort of thing, it is absolutely amazing. If you didn't like the others, you probably won't like this one. So it's more the same, but more of the same. So there you go.
Cool. I liked the others, so I will have to attempt to watch this one at some point.
All right, and just by the way, I loved reading the title of this one because it's such a high energy intro, and then just in the middle of it, meh. But that just indicates that all three of us tonight kind of don't have anything to say, which means this will probably be a 2.5 hour show. So. Just let you know, there's no particular topic. There's no underlying theme. We're just kind of turn the mics on and see what happens.
Freewheeling geek rants.
There you go. It's almost like every show we ever done in the past, almost. And so, Seth, I've never seen this movie that you're about to reference. So tell me, I've not heard anything good about it though. So tell me about Dogma.
Okay, so a guy I work with, he's very big into the, Comic-Con scene and stuff like that. So he gave me the box set, and so I was like, because I heard a lot of bad things, and there were certain stages of my Christian development. One of the phases I've talked about in the past is the Pope is the Antichrist phase of Christian maturity or immaturity, as the case may be. And had I been in that stage, this would have been a very bad movie to watch. But this movie came out several years ago, so it's a little dated, and you can definitely tell watching it that it came out years ago. But I was impressed by several things. Number one, Alan Rickman. He's just a great actor. It's a joy to see him in any movie. He's good. And number two, just the amount of star power that is in this film blows you away. And then you could tell that, with the subject they were covering, this had a chance to be a really movie that, polarizes people and, making fun of religion. But instead, it came across to me as people having fun with a story and making fun of dogma, hence the name Dogma, but drawing a line in the movie, the difference between dogma and belief or faith. And so, they were poking fun at the things that literally that you should be able to poke fun at, but without, making fun of everybody who is an adherent to a particular faith. And so it's not the greatest movie ever made by any stretch. I don't think, but it was a very enjoyable movie to watch. I mean, you had a young Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. George Carlin was in it, and just, people on screen, you're like, oh, I know that person. Selma Hayek was in it. So of course, she's attractive to watch doing anything, but there's just like, oh, I know that person. I know that person. I know that person. And it was just like all of these people who gained notoriety later on were in this film, and then the story was kind of cool, and it made sense in the logic of the universe they set up, and it was a pretty good movie. So don't watch this kind of in the family room, maybe doing some other stuff, but I would put it on a higher level than watch in the background. But I would say watch it because it's a lot of fun. I mean, hey, it has language, so if you have small kids around, maybe not watch it with them, but an enjoyable movie, a good movie, not a great movie, but a good movie, and one that I think is very much worth watching at least once. So I don't know that this will be a repeat. Oh, I got to see that movie all the time, but it was an enjoyable watch for me. Chuckled along with it, laughed at some places, figured some things out, because it's kind of simplistic in that sense. But overall, an enjoyable movie. This could have easily shown up on the list last week because I wasn't expecting much, and it was better than what I was expecting. So Dogma, I think it's an enjoyable movie. And like I say, there's certain stages, if you are a Christian, and there are certain stages of Christian development where you couldn't watch this movie. But then there's other stages where you can watch it, I think, and enjoy it for what it's trying to be, instead of placing your views on it to start it with and not enjoy it.
All right. That was some qualifications and some quick addendas, but overall, I think we liked it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Good, not great.
All right. And Miles, in true geek fashion, is spending the next month trying to decide what phone he wants to buy. So he's going to tell us about that.
Yeah, I hit Mark up for some Android info after the show last week, and I'm still not committed to a phone. We've said this before. With all of us seem to share a common value here, and that is we don't like buying a phone every year or two. We want to get 4 or 5 years out of a phone, right?
At least. Yeah.
And so when it was about 2015 or so, phones started to go north of $1,000 each. It started to get really stupid at that point. And you would think if Moore's Law was a thing that prices would go down, not up, and all that. But I don't know, Apple decided they wanted to create their own reality and turned $1,000 prices and went north of that. Well, I'm not an Apple phone person. I'm an Android phone person. I have an HTC 10, and it's 4 years old. So here I am thinking I can get another year out of this thing. I mean, it's got some warts. It's not perfect. It doesn't do very good photos in low light, and it's got some issues, but it does the job. I work at home. I don't go out on the road that much. I don't need it with me all the time. But when I do go out, I need it. and I'm about to come into travel season again. So I thought, well, let's see if I can get through this year. Maybe next year I'll look at a new phone. Well, no, Google says, I'm going to make your phone crippled and zombie-like because we just like writing new things that break things. So I became victim of that. So anyway, it accelerated the process of me looking for a new phone. So what do? Well, you go through a list of all of the things that you want out of your phone, because whatever it is I'm going to buy it's going to last me 4 years. So it's got to have an earphone jack, because I'm one of them old school, just give me a normal set of headphones, please. And I need good battery life, and I need a decent camera, and I need, I don't know, maybe a thumb security thing or whatever. Anyway, I put my list together, and a buddy of mine was over at Mobile World Congress in Barcelona a couple of weeks ago. And I said to him, hey, listen, you're on the floor. Go and tell me what phone I should buy. So he comes back and he goes, well, that Chinese company, Huawei, whatever it is.
Huawei.
Thank you. They got some pretty neat phones. I'm like, dude, I have to go in front of clients and be Mr. Security Guy. And if I walk in there with a Chinese phone, they'll kick me out of the room. And he's like, okay, well, that's out. I know that's a broad statement, but that's reality,
I agree.
Anyway, yeah. So that wasn't going to work. Then he says, well, this LG's pretty cool. This new thing they got coming out, the G8 thin whatever. Apparently you wave your hands over it and magic happens. It's like, how to look like a total idiot is to be there with a phone you're waving your hands over, right? I'm sorry. Yeah, really. I mean, that's not going to work. So I settled for the Samsung Galaxy S10. And that was released 2 days ago. So this is sort of timely. And that phone checks all the boxes. It actually looks like a decent phone.
What's it, about $900?
Yeah, $999 plus tax, plus, I don't know, breakage plan, plus this. It's like, come on. What on earth? It's a phone. But, where I live, I only really get decent coverage with Verizon, so that kind of narrows things down a little bit. So I don't know. Help me here. What should I do?
I don't think there's a world in which I buy $1,000 phone. If I had infinite money to spend, I still don't think I could make myself buy $1,000 phone. I don't get it. What's happening is Apple has sort of started the trend, but you're seeing this everywhere. I went to the movies, right? So we like to go to this place called Movie Tavern, and it's a sit down and eat mediocre food at exorbitant prices. But you've got the lounge, the reclining lounge seats, whatever. So what you're paying for is not the movie, not the food, but the experience. And so for my family of 5, I spent $200 to see that movie. And it's not about the movie, it's about the experience. And that's everything is sort of going that way. That's the premium model, the premium laptop, the premium phone. The Galaxy S10 is trying to sell you on a premium experience. It's not about the hardware. It's not about the software. It's about the experience of the finely crafted Corinthian leather handle grips or whatever. And that just, I don't know. Maybe if I can spend $200 to see a movie, I can spend $1,000 on a phone. But for me, there's a hard disconnect there.
The experience is rebooting your phone twice a week because it's so old and crappy and you can't buy these garbage you're trying to sell now. That's the experience you're dealing with. $1,000. I mean, that's stupid. It's, okay. Show me something. This phone also is a miniature transporter, and it can transport anything up to 5 ounces, 10 miles. Okay, I'll pay $1,000 for that. But $1,000 to be a little bit thinner and a little more crappy, and the battery lasts not quite as long as the old model I just got rid of that you bricked with a software update you're trying to hide from people. That's not worth $1,000. What's something new that this phone does? And not just it does this one thing a little bit better and these 10 things a little bit worse, and we're not going to fix those because we're already writing on 2 versions later. That's stupid. It's absolutely stupid. And the only reason they get away with this is because people go, oh, shiny. And then we waste our money.
It's not the shiny. It's the, it's only $200 or $20 a month for the next 8 years. Yeah. That's what it is.
People are stupid.
You're right. And the crazy thing is, I don't think I have much of an alternative choice, which is even more frustrating. I've had to come to the point of saying, okay, maybe I have to get creative in trying to find a way to justify buying this phone. Like, if I buy it with a certain credit card that gives me 5 times points, that's 5,000 frequent flyer mile points, which is half of a ticket to, I don't know, Texas or something. And then I can say, okay, well, the price of that, I take it off what the phone is. I mean, that's a stupid justification, but it's something. Or to say, okay, well, if I use this phone for 4 years, it's not $1,000, it's $250 a year. I mean, I don't know. That's another stupid justification. I mean, where's Moore's Law when you need it?
So
it should be half the price. Here's
my approach on that is I either buy a $300 phone and accept that I'm going to buy one every couple of years. So if I buy three $300 phones every 2 years, I've gotten 6 years out of that same $1,000 instead of 4 years. Or I buy last year's $1,000 phone for $400 this year. It's all the bells and whistles from a year ago. And generally, those are the two approaches I take.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. I mean, I could go with like a Galaxy S9,
right,
and see, but I know that Google's going to brick it. So I'm just delaying the problem for year 3 as opposed to year 4.
Right.
So my time is, I mean, look, I'm not, this sounds the wrong thing. My time is valuable. It's valuable because I'm not going to be on this planet for forever. So I value my time. I don't mind spending money if it gives me time back. If I don't have to have 2 or 3 phones, I can do it with one. There's something to that. I get it. But no, this is just getting insane. Is this part of an inflation hiding trick that's going on? Is this a government conspiracy? I mean, what is this?
Maybe it's that we're actually paying what phones cost for the first time. That may be what it is.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. This is just it's our financial February thing. People are paying it, so they're charging that. The price the price will fall if people realize this phone is a tool and not a status symbol, and I don't have to have it. It's just because we don't care. We want the shiny bauble that we think we can afford the payment instead of realizing how much it costs. That's what's killing us.
I think there is something to be said for, and this goes with our show title, that phones themselves are becoming meh. They're not brand new, breaking new technology anymore. They're just, a little bit better of last year's model, a little bit shinier, a little bit smaller, a little bit better long-lasting battery, a little bit better camera. Maybe they've got some inbuilt gimbal thing or something. Maybe they've got more storage, faster speed, whatever it is. But it's just last year's model upgraded. It's not breaking new technological barriers and moving evolution forward for the humanity. It's just another phone. And I think that most of the trade shows, they're starting to feel that because their attendance is pulling back. The vendors are not as aggressive at sales as they used to be. And frankly, the number of new model phones that are coming out per year is down.
Well, the same thing happened with computers. There was a time when it was all about speeds and feeds and the greatest megabits and the different types of RAM, DRAM versus SDRAM versus whatever, and now it's just go pick the pretty one. And I think that's where phones are. It's just taking them less time. It took PCs 20 years to get there. It's taken phones 10 years to get to that point, and that's where we are. Go pick the pretty one. and you're fine. Anyone out there is more than you need.
You know what's really funny? People don't take phone calls anymore. The funny thing is, especially if I talk to my daughter about this, I wouldn't say she gets upset, but when she gets a phone call that hasn't been preceded by a text of, "Oh, I'm about to ring you. I'm about to call you," it's like, then the phone just rings. It's like, this is an interruption to my world that I don't want to be dealing with right now. Whereas guys like us who grew up in, all about phones and business, and you wouldn't want to miss that call, now all we're doing is getting tele-spammed. I don't know, maybe the kids have got this right.
I have long said that calling somebody is the most arrogant thing you can do, because a telephone call says whatever you're doing right now is less important than I am.
Yeah.
I am the most important thing right now. Stop whatever you're doing and talk to me. So I am with your daughter on that one. If you look at the things I do on my phone, if you take out work conference calls, other than that, I spend minutes a month on the phone, not hours, minutes, like a dozen minutes a month on the phone. Phone calls are not for me. And I don't call people, and I don't expect to be called, because people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Phone. Yeah. All right. We're just going to get off phones, and we're going to talk about whiny gamers now, because, more whining.
More whining. Okay, this is an interesting story. We have 2 data centers with servers in them. One's in Texas, one's in Phoenix. And periodically, I've got to move things from one to another. And these servers, for those that don't live in the world of data centers and servers are what we would call hypervisors. They're pieces of hardware that run multiple virtual servers in order to leverage the investment of power and capital equipment and whatever. You put, 10 servers on one box. Or if you've got a box, has to be upgraded, or you've got servers that have to be moved, it can be tricky because things connect to things, backups, you got intrusion detection stuff, you've got firewalls, you got all this stuff. It's complicated. But anyway, the day comes along when you have to move something because it makes more sense to have it in a different location. I've just gone through, and I'm going through a very large migration of servers at the moment from one to another that has taken me literally 4 weeks of time, particularly on weekends, because that's when people don't seem to use them as much, to migrate this stuff. But, it's planned out, and I did it, and we did the biggest one last night at 11:30 p.m. last night. I switched the DNS over from one to another, and no downtime, maybe half an hour, and no one knew because at that time it wasn't there. I get up in the morning this morning, I look at the logs, and I see in real time literally tens of thousands of people every couple of minutes slamming this server, using it, and the world is a good thing. I haven't had any complaints. Everything went well. That doesn't happen all that often, by the way. It does, but, everybody out there who loves their Google Drive or their Yahoo Mail or their AOL this or their Microsoft Azure that, trust me, the stuff that goes on behind the scenes to keep the hamster running around in that wheel that gives you whatever you get for free, it's a lot of work, people. That said, true engineers can get through this thing. Interestingly, one of my clients who's on that server that got migrated happens to be associated with a massively multiplayer online role-playing game called DDO, or Dungeons and Dragons Online. It's from a company out of Boston called Standing Stone Games. It's a very, very good game. It's very popular. Probably 100,000 people play it. It just so happened that in parallel with our data center moves, which went fairly successful, they had data center moves going on with their big gaming platform. And I guess it was a contractual thing where one of their data centers said, your contract's up, you got to get out. So they moved somewhere else. Well, it's a big job, and I know what it's like because it takes a lot of planning, and they obviously had to do it as well. Well, unfortunately, to A-B compare it, they were down for 4 days. Now, this is a business that their entire business relies on them being online, being up for this video game that people pay a monthly subscription to use or whatever. They were down for 4 days. That's huge. Now, imagine if Google was down for 4 days. Imagine Netflix was down for 4 days, or Airbnb. I mean, that would put these guys out of business. That's the wafer thin difference between being in business and not being in business in the digital 21st century is not being down for 4 days. Well, they went back online on Saturday, and during this time, as companies do, they're tweeting out on Twitter, look, we're sorry, we're down, we expect to be up in X number of hours. And of course that didn't happen. And so they kept doing it day after day after day. And for the first couple of days, the gamers, I mean, let's face it, it's a game, right? It's not a big deal. The gamers are like, it's fine. We don't mind. Do what you have to do. I'm sure it's good. We've got your back. You're in good shape. Don't worry. Yeah, well, that lasted after about day 2. I saw this amazing experiment in human sociology where gamers went, why the heck are you not up again? And who's running this show? And you're a bunch of idiots. And I could have done this better. And I know how to do blah, 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 blah. And I'm sitting in the background having gone through this very same experience going, shut up. You don't know what is going on. You have no idea. And for you to be so ignorant and so stupid to voice an opinion about what these poor people are going through, because clearly something went awry, and it does. And look, I'm not perfect because I'll have mistakes, but they had a mistake, right? And it's a game. Go out in the sunshine and ride a bike or something. I mean, just go and do something with your time rather than just whining about this game that's been down for 4 days. And I don't know. I just lost it with some dude on Twitter about this because I'm just sitting back listening to this tirade going, there's no skin in the game here. It's just troll-like mentality, but these gamers have no social boundaries. None. And they will swat somebody if they think that they can, that it gets a lols out of some group, or they'll do anything in their power with absolutely no skin in the game because they feel like life is just one big respawn. And I guess I kind of walked away with this going, where the heck is society going? If we can't live in a world where people make mistakes and they're given a chance to rectify it, and it's no big deal, there's no loss, you'll be back in the game on Saturday. You didn't lose any. It's not like your money went away. You just lost a couple of days. But we seem to be in an internet-based society that cannot stomach that. And that worries me.
Well, to be fair, socially adjusted, emotionally stable people don't spend hours playing video games, right? So you're dealing with a subset of the population that is already not predisposed to normal social interactions. Then you add the anonymity factor to it and the fact that there's absolutely no possibility of repercussion, and you get the worst out of the worst people.
It is bad. I mean, it is really bad. If you see some of the chat logs going on in some of these games, particularly these first-person shooters, like Call of Duty or Battlefield or any of those sort of games, and you read the stuff that these people are writing, it's insanely bad. I mean, it's racist stuff. It's the worst of humanity demonstrated right there. It's like somebody allowed their evil dark side to emerge and just trolled out all of this stuff for everybody else to read with no. You're absolutely right. There's like no apparent downside to doing this sort of thing. It's not healthy.
Yeah, I have a similar story. Years ago, broadband wasn't, you didn't have gigabit to your home back then. And I was running a server, running my own local DNS, and I needed to change that DNS. And anybody who knows that can take 48 to 72 hours for that to propagate out. But I had 2 other DNS services, one in Seattle, one in Chicago, that one was on level 3 and one was on Verizon. So I had, pretty much, I was bulletproof there. So I took down my DNS, let the 2 backups take over. Level 3 had a problem in Seattle, and Verizon had a problem in Chicago on the same day. And so all DNS was lost, and it took 72 hours, roughly. Some people got it back a lot faster, but before everybody could get to everything that I had done was about 3.5 to 4 days. And this was an education environment. This wasn't even gamers. And yeah, the hate rained down, and the whole time I'm like, there is literally nothing I could do. I could not have imagined that a data center in Texas, in Chicago, and in Seattle could all have gone down at the same time. There's just no plan for that. And sorry, you're just going to have to wait. Yep, it happens sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I think the thing that scares me the most is when a real emergency happens, how ill prepared sociologically, is that the word? Socially, people are. If we had a real devastating event, I mean, you see on the news floods and fires and, hurricanes and all those sort of things. And they're horrible. Don't get me wrong. There's no excuse for normal, natural weather pattern events like that, but they're localized. They're in a smaller community. So it might be that South Carolina got bombarded with a hurricane, but if you're living in Oregon, you didn't feel a thing. Or if California's got the fires, but you're living in Maine, you don't notice anything. It's always somebody else's problem until it's your own, but it's usually somebody else's problem. The thing is that one day we'll have a national emergency of some form. It might be an EMP, or it might be an economic crisis, or it might be a war. I mean, it could be anything. But when we get that level of crises, I have no faith in people's ability to handle themselves in a mature and problem-solving manner. Because it seems like what's happening is that the world of video games and this mythology of instant respawn has turned into our political culture, and has turned into our social culture, and it's turned into just people. There seems to be a tolerance level of that behavior that I've never seen before, because I don't think it should be tolerated. But I don't know. Maybe call me old-fashioned.
Some people have never been forced to cut their own switch, and it shows.
Yeah.
Man, that brought... Yep, I've had to do that. Not fun at all.
I think every single person who works in technology, in IT, in some point in their career was in tech support and there was an emergency, or something went down and they couldn't get the backups up, or there was some catastrophe. I'd say we all at some point in our lives have been through this. And, it's almost like license to being a geek, is you have to go through this kind of baptism of fire at some point. I just wonder about how the users, the customers, their level of reaction to that today seems to be very, very different than what it was maybe in the early 90s, for example.
Well, we've substituted human silicon interaction for human interaction, and things that got sorted out on the playgrounds because kids were playing with each other and interacting with each other and learning how to behave in a society with adult supervision around. Now, a generation is coming of age who, I mean, it's not that they never played together, but they didn't. They're doing these games where there is an intermediary and they don't have to deal with other people. It's just themselves in their cocoon. And, a lot of them are doing solo junk online or with other people where they don't have to connect, they don't have to act, they don't have to interact. And so you aren't responding to a person, you're responding to anonymous words on the screen. And so when it's just anonymous words on the screen, you bleep, 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 why did, but if you were talking to somebody face to face, you go, you're a person too. And, that empathy that you learned isn't learned anymore. And, and for a while, society was able to take it for granted that we knew it. But now there's a whole generation of kids, you know, you think about it. People who were born at the turn of the millennium, they grew up with access. And of course, not everybody, but larger and larger segments in the developed world have, you know, this little piece of silicon in their hands that they were given to so that, you know, the parents could have a moment of quiet, you know, and just here, deal with this phone so you're not bothering me. And then, okay, I'll just deal with this phone. And they don't know how to interact. They weren't taught how to behave. They didn't learn proper socialization. And society is showing the strains of having a generation raised that way.
These kids today.
Is it just the kids? I mean, is it also just this hair-triggered society that we've created as a result of that, though?
I go back to there's not. Wow, I'm really well spoken. I'm not disagreeing with anything you said, Seth, but I think that I put the central crux in a different place. It's not the different types of interactions. It's not the dehumanization. There's definitely some of that. There is definitely a lower regard for human life overall as a society today. I don't know that technology is responsible for that. I think it's the removal of consequences. Even in human-to-human interactions, consequences are removed because if you know things that used to be just handled by we're going to beat each other to death outside the school, that's now bullying and requires an intervention of 3 different people. And we live in a society where we've removed consequences, and therefore we have an entire generation of people who don't know how to deal with consequences because they were insulated from them. You know, the only parallels to that in history are the royal families, and we see how screwed up they were. You know, but they were really the only people with no consequences. And so we're raising a generation of royals, essentially.
That's interesting. I like that. That actually makes a lot of sense. The lack of consequences is become the norm. Wow, that's sad. I mean, to me, if you kind of live in a world where the buck stops on your desk and you take responsibility for your actions and, you know, you don't do bad things to other people because A, you respect other people, and B, you don't want it being done back to you, you tend to find the world actually balances itself out pretty nicely and everyone gets along and it's a happy place. But this no responsibility, I don't care, I'll just slag you off and say whatever is on my mind with not even thinking about it, that starts becoming habit. And it starts permeating into politics, and it permeates into education, and it permeates into parenting.
And that's why we have a student loan crisis, because $100,000, $200,000 worth of student loans, people got into that knowing that they'd be deferred or forgiven. So, you know, no consequences created this mess.
$1.6 trillion of mess, by the way. It's a horrible... it could be the next bubble that becomes the Great Depression.
Yeah, I can't. The sad part is we can't disagree with that. I mean, and you're already seeing the effect of it on society because, you know, has that generation that typically would be growing into its purchasing power is coming face to face with its lifetime of debt because, you know, and this is an overgeneralization, you know, you wasted $100,000 to get a degree in philosophy rather than spending 4 years earning a trade. And so now, you know, those 5 jobs available for philosophy majors, there's 20,000 students, and the 20,000 jobs that are open, if you want to get up and work, there's 5 people working them. So, and you know, yes, it's overgeneralization, but you know, we bought a lie that, oh, get a college degree and everything will be great. Well, it's great for the companies holding the debt. You know, it's great for a government that forces you into more indoctrination, but it's bad for society because you have this massive debt because, you know, when my brothers went to college, 10 years older than me, you could work in the summer and earn enough money over the summer to pay for your education and graduate with really no debt, you know, maybe a little bit, but you could wipe it out in a year. And if I would have been smart and just went straight through, but I mean, I was on the 10-year plan. So I graduated with $12,000 in debt because I did my last 1 year on debt and came out with $12,000. And that took me years to pay off. But yeah, so this generation that is, beginning to advance in the world finds itself advancing to zero. And by the time it hits zero, it's going to be time to retire and they're not going to have anything. So, what's the country going to do when it comes face to face with that? How are we going to react and how are we going to, come out the other side of this? So I don't know. I had a point there, and it was glorious. You should have heard it in my mind.
Well, what we can be sure of is that we will come out the other side of it. It may not be in the way that we want, but humanity in this nation will continue, just in a different form. And of course, in a show where we had no topic, we didn't do either of the news items that Seth had, and we're going over time. So let's jump straight to Seth. What happened this week in history?
All right, Mark. Well, I wanted to let you know and remind all the opiates out there that on March the 8th, 1983, the IBM introduces the PCXT computer. It stands for Extended Technology for a price of $4,995, roughly $12,500 in today's currency. It had an Intel 88 processor, a precursor to the 86. Go figure. That's math for you. A 10 meg hard drive, 8 expansion slots, a serial port, 128K, not meg, K of RAM, and 40K of ROM, a keyboard, and one double-sided 360K floppy drive. It did not come with a mouse. Mouses were for weirdos and who needed them on the awesome text operating systems of the day. So anyway, that happened in 1983. Look at the specs, look at the price, and then look at how much we pay for computers that run circles around that today. Anyway, Mark, now back to you.
It's sort of inconceivable looking back now to be excited about that. But at the time, that was groundbreaking. And, Miles told a story before we got started. He and a partner built a company on 2 machines older than this. And it was groundbreaking, life-changing technology that today we kind of snicker at.
And this was before the clones started coming out. So you wanted this technology, you had to buy an IBM. I mean, I don't know when Compaq first released their first machine that kind of broke that cycle, but you had to pony up to get this machine. So it was those people who had a real reason to spend this sort of money. I mean, $12,600 equivalent in today's currency for that machine. What was I thinking?
Yeah, and that's for the average person back then. That was 4 months' pay, maybe 3 months' pay. It was. It was a lot of money, and you did it, and you were happy about it. And here we're complaining about $1,000 phones. All right, this is the part of the show where I tell you how you can feed back to us. Let us know what you think about movies, about phones, about these darn millennials that are ruining the world. Whatever happens to cross your mind, let us know at elementop.com. Click the Contact Us button at the top of the page, answer the world's hardest CAPTCHA, and then fill out the form that will send an email that gets priority in my in-basket. We don't have a slow show closing spectacular this week because Seth was meh about it. So
I have standards, and they couldn't be met. That tells you the kind of links I came across this week.
So they just weren't as good as midget throwing or Rent a Midget.
Hey, Rent a Midget was awesome. They can't all be Rent a Midget and backyard circuses. So,
all right. So what do you think? Let us know. elementop.com. I'm not even going to go into the thing. You know how to pay for it if you want to pay for it. You know how to share it if you want to share it. Just do your thing. Meh. And I just don't have the energy to go through it. Go do the right thing. You know what it is. Go do it. We'll see you next week, because that's it for this episode of the Geek Rant. And remember, pay for what you like.
Toodaloo.
All righty. Jinda, as always, thanks for hanging out with us. It was good to have you along. Now I just got to pop up. Gosh, it's that. How likely are you to recommend the Google Chrome browser to a friend or a colleague?
Oh, God.
Well, based on that, it just went down. Not my night. All right. See you, YouTube people. We'll talk to you later. Bye, Jinda.